So today I'm going to be comparing the A7C2 against the A7 IV. Just going to be going over the main differences between the two from a videographer's perspective, just give you my overall thoughts on these cameras and hopefully help you make a informed decision if you're planning to buy one of these. So first off, there's not a whole lot different between the two, but the main difference you see straight away is the body. Now the look of these cameras is pretty different. The A7C2 is a lot smaller, more compact compared to the A7 IV is a bit chunkier. Now the main difference you see straight away is the EVF, which is the viewfinder. The viewfinder on the A7 IV is a lot bigger, a lot more chunky compared to the A7C2. Okay, so the viewfinder on the A7 IV is a lot nicer to look into, meaning it's more comfortable because you got a bit of room in here for your eyelashes to sit. So it's a lot more comfortable to look into. And also the screen inside is a lot bigger. So you're going to see a bigger image, you're going to be able to see more resolution, more detail. It's overall going to be a better image to look at. And if you're looking into it for extended periods of time, the EVF on the A7 IV is a lot nicer. Me personally, I barely use it, so it doesn't worry me at all. The A7C2, I mean, you're getting a more compact design, so you're going to sacrifice a bit with the viewfinder. It is a lot smaller. It's not as comfortable to look into because you haven't got that guard around it. Especially if you're shooting vertical, your eyelashes tend to get in the way and it's just not as comfortable to look into. And also, the screen's a lot smaller inside. The screen isn't as big as the A7 IV. It hasn't got as much resolution inside. But yeah, personally, if I ever use it, it's more for framing and composition, so I'm not too worried on the quality. But if I was doing, say, like wildlife photography or something outside for extended periods of time looking into the viewfinder, the A7 IV would be so much nicer. If you use it occasionally, then it doesn't really matter. Now for buttons, the A7 IV does have more custom buttons on the outside. So you're going to get more flexibility with customizing your buttons on the outside. The A7C2 doesn't have as many, but everything else is very similar. They've both got the fully articulating flip out screen. The handle is a lot deeper on the A7 IV than the A7C2. It's a lot more comfortable to grab. As you can see, my hand kind of wraps around and it's very locked in and secure. The A7C2, not as deep of a grip, so you're not going to feel as secure, especially if you've got big hands. It's not going to feel as nice to grab. It's a little bit more awkward, and you know, yeah, if you've got big hands, it's just going to be harder to hold, not as comfortable. And I don't have as much confidence just holding this camera in one hand. I feel like it's going to slip out of my hand. The A7 IV, very confident because it's such a deep grip, so I'm not worried I'm going to drop this. Another thing is the A7 IV has a dual SD card slot. The A7C2 can only hold one SD card. The main reason why you would want two SD cards is redundancy. If you're filming something critical that you can't do a retake of, and let's say for some reason one of your memory cards fails, you've lost all your footage. Now by having two SD card slots, you have the option to be able to record on two SD cards at the same time, which could be good for those critical situations where you can't do a retake. Recording on two might be very helpful. Again, if you've got this camera on a tripod or something, you can put two SD cards in here and you have double the space. So you don't have to worry about one SD card filling up and then it stops recording. You can have it automatically start recording on the second SD card. So if one fills up, it can automatically start recording on the second. The A7C2 only having one, I would just try and aim for a higher gigabyte card. But if you're not filming big events like weddings and things like that, you might not need the two SD cards. So it really depends on what you're filming and how often you're filming. For most things, one SD card slot is fine. Another big thing I noticed with this is using the A7 IV is so much more enjoyable just because of the buttons. Like, clicking these buttons is so much nicer. Listen to the buttons, ready? Like, they're so clicky and it's more satisfying. The A7C2, they're very flat. So listen. It's hard to tell that you're actually pressing them. Like, it doesn't fully click in. It doesn't give you that click in type feel. If you press a button on the A7 IV, it's very obvious it's been pressed in. The A7C2, you might have to second guess yourself. Like, hang on, did I actually press that in? Especially the record button. I've noticed the record button isn't very clicky at all. It's very easy to press it and not actually press it. The A7 IV is very obvious that you pressed it. But then again, the A7C2 has a feature which we'll get into right now. The A7C2 has a quick menu feature which the A7 IV doesn't. Now, it may come with an update, it may not, I'm not sure. At the time of recording, the A7C2 has this, the A7 IV doesn't. But if you swipe from the left or right, you're gonna get this quick pop-out menu with a whole bunch of buttons you can press. And then also, if you swipe up from the bottom, you got your functions menu. So yeah, the buttons might not be as nice to press, but then you're getting this quick access option on the menu itself. so you can just use the touchscreen. So on the A7C II, you probably don't need to use the buttons as much as you would on the A7 IV. Now, also while we're on the body, the A7C II is a smaller, more compact camera, and it's a lot lighter as well. It's going to be better if you're traveling, if you need to throw this in a backpack, if you're walking around a lot and you need to hold it vlogging yourself. If you're vlogging yourself and you put a light lens on this, this is a very light setup. The A7 IV is a bit bulkier, a bit chunkier, gotta keep that in mind. If you're traveling and size is an issue, then the A7C II wins, 100%. Let's get on to the internals. Quality-wise, these are pretty much exactly the same. So I did some low light tests in my gym and there's virtually no difference at all. So this was shot at 3200 ISO. As you can see, I'm switching between the A7C II and the A7 IV, and there's basically no difference at all. Now, both of these cameras have a 33 megapixel sensor, and you're gonna get a crisp 4K image oversampled from 7K. If you're shooting an S-Log3, these both have the same ISO bases, 800 and 3200. Both perform just as well in low light. They both have a 1.5 times crop if you're filming at 50 or 60 frames a second. You're just gonna get that, unless you wanna step up to like the A7S III, which I'm filming on right now. Okay, so the stabilization these have are standard and active, but the A7C II has an extra one. It jumps up to the dynamic active stabilization. I had a good chance to try this out, and you know, it's not too bad. It's not the greatest because it is digital stabilization, so it's not the best thing. What it does is it crops in on the image a little bit. It's pretty much gonna give you more stabilization. So as you can see here, I've tested it a bit in the gym. All right, so right here is stabilization off on the A7C II, and then dynamic active stabilization on the A7C II. Now, stabilization on both cameras are pretty much the same. The A7C II is supposed to be a bit better. So here's standard stabilization for both cameras. So here's standard on the A7C II and standard on the A7 IV. So the A7C II and the A7 IV. Now here's active stabilization on the A7 IV, which is the A7 IV's best stabilization, versus dynamic stabilization on the A7C II. Yeah, so you can kind of have a look and see a bit of a difference there. Now, I noticed for walking shots, as you saw, dynamic stabilization is definitely the smoothest, but if you're too shaky, it is going to look a little bit robotic, which is my problem with these digital stabilizations. But yeah, my honest thoughts on the stabilization, I can't really tell a difference. They're both very good. The dynamic stabilization on the A7C II is nice, and I would probably pick it if I was walking with a client or something and I had to film them and I didn't have a gimbal and I had to go handheld. I think the dynamic is really nice for that. But otherwise, you could just add post stabilization. We'll pretty much do the same thing. Post might be a bit better. Dynamic is great if you're filming something quickly and you don't want to do any post stabilization. So is the dynamic stabilization that much better than the active? I mean, if you're not editing, then yes, it's really good. If you're running, I think it looks a bit too robotic. It looks a bit too, you know, digital. It doesn't look natural, which is my problem with the active stabilization. I like using it, but it does give an unnatural type of feel to it. So you're gonna get that bit of robotic jolting. The dynamic stabilization has more of that robotic type jolting feel. So for that reason, I probably wouldn't use the dynamic stabilization that much. Now let's move on to autofocus. So this is a big feature of this camera, the A7C II. It has the new autofocus AI chip, which means better autofocusing on humans, animals, cars, trains, planes. From what I've seen on the A7 IV, it just has humans and animals pretty much. Now I got a chance to test the A7C II's autofocus compared to the A7 IV, and I wasn't sure if I would really notice much of a difference, but after using it, there is definitely a difference. The A7C II is definitely improved. Now my initial reaction was it's probably gonna be slightly better. You're probably not gonna notice much of a difference. Then actually testing it, I noticed a lot of a difference. I got my brother to walk around the gym and I was just watching how it would detect his eye and if it would keep up with him when he walks behind things. And surprisingly, pretty much the whole time the A7C II kept up with him with the focus. Even as he went far away from the camera, he was turning his head around. It uses AI to detect where his eye might be or where his head is. So even if he puts his head down with his hat on and he turns his head all the way around, it's still detecting his head, it's still focusing really good. The A7 IV lacks a little bit here. It was losing him unless he was in clear sight. As soon as he puts his head down or he walks out of frame, he turns around, it loses him straight away. As he's walking behind objects, it wasn't able to detect his face, where the A7C II did detect him from far away. See, as he went behind this machine here and he looked through it, the A7C2 is locking onto his eye, the A7 IV wasn't. And for both of these, I was using the same lens as well. For both of these tests, I was using the Sigma 24-70mm art lens. But yeah, I'll say that the A7C2 definitely has more intelligent autofocus, and it is noticeable. If you're filming yourself or filming a client, you're gonna notice that it just sticks onto their eye that bit more. It will keep them in focus that bit more. So if you rely heavily on autofocus, the A7C2 is really nice for that. So yeah, if I was in the gym and I had the camera up on a tripod, I'd be a lot more confident in the A7C2 to keep me in focus the whole time over the A7 IV. Even though the A7 IV is really good still, if you're in a situation where you don't have control over the focus, like if it's on a tripod, the autofocus on the A7C2 is really nice. So that's definitely a big plus of this camera. Now the A7C2 has this new auto framing feature, which the A7 IV doesn't. What it pretty much does is it crops in on you and it will follow you around the frame. So yes, it's gonna reduce quality, but with that sharp 4K video oversampled from 7K, you're still gonna get a really sharp image that looks really good. Okay, so here's the new auto framing feature. So all you do is you track yourself and a box will appear around you. Anywhere I move, it will start following me. If I go down, it'll follow me, go up. Now you can obviously change the speed that it'll follow you. So you can have it on really slow and smooth, or you can have it on very fast and responsive. Go down here. I could see this to be really useful if you're filming yourself and you're gonna be slightly moving around and you don't want a really wide shot. Like you wanna be able to zoom in and have it look like there's a bit of movement in the video. So yeah, I think this is pretty cool. Now, yes, you can do this in keyframing afterwards in post, but that's extra steps. It's really nice to be able to have it done in the camera. Definitely a cool feature that the A7 IV doesn't have. Internally on these cameras, the menu systems are pretty much exactly the same. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is the A7 IV has a full-size HDMI port, where the A7C2 has a micro HDMI port, which for some people might not be a big deal. Depends if you use the HDMI port or not. I use it pretty often because I use the monitor, so you know it's more convenient having a full size. I don't want to deal with adapters and things like that. Yeah, but they're my thoughts on both of these cameras. For me, I'd pick the A7 IV just to the more professional type feel it has. Dual SD card slots, more buttons, clickier buttons. But the A7C2 is a really good camera, and there's a lot of situations where I would probably pick this over that. More professional type filming, I'd pick the A7 IV, but if I was traveling, vlogging myself, anything like that, the A7C2 is actually a better camera to take with you. It's more compact, it's lighter, newer autofocus. If I'm filming myself, I don't have to worry too much that I'm not going to be in focus. I can rely a bit more on the autofocus. You know, the dynamic stabilization is really nice too, if you're in a situation where it's going to be very bumpy. So if I was running to the gym and I wanted to film myself, I'd just pick up the A7C2. Lightweight, small, chuck on a tripod. I'm confident that I'll be in focus pretty much 99% of the time. Really good camera. So yeah, it's up to you on what camera you want to get. Price-wise, in AUD, I'm seeing these go for about 3,000, the A7 IVs, and the A7C2 about 2,700. So there's around a $300 price difference. So it's not massive, which is crazy because the A7C2 has newer features in it. It's a really good camera, autofocus stabilization, and $300 cheaper. You're missing out on a few features that this has, but you're getting some really cool features. So it depends on how important dual SD card slots is for you and just the bigger, more professional design. If you're traveling, vlogging, filming yourself, anything like that, doing semi-professional work, the A7C2 is an amazing camera. If you're doing full professional work, I'd probably just go with the A7 IV. Also, if you use the EVF a lot, A7 IV is the clear winner. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I'll let you decide on what camera you think is good for you. If you have any more questions on these cameras, let me know in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.